Hello, welcome to The Blackout. Worldwide, journalists and activists serve as intermediaries, informing the general public on critical issues. In return, they become targets of harassment and death by their government and non-state actors. Their work is essential for influencing a push for positive impacts of economic and human development. Here on The Blackout, the purpose is to shed light on victims' cases and hope to spread awareness and demand justice. In this video, we'll be covering the case of Jodi Huisentruit, a 27-year-old television news anchor who was abducted from the parking lot in front of what is called Building C of the Key apartment complex in Mason City, Iowa, on June 27, 1995. Jodi Huisentruit was quite a local celebrity as a morning news anchor at KIMT and was popular all over town with a lot of friends. Her friends described her as effervescent, and she seemed to have been extroverted. She was smart, fearless, and always willing to try a new sport. She was very athletic, loved to travel, and made people laugh. She was dedicated to her work and never missed a day. A day before disappearing, Jodi played in a local Chamber of Commerce golf tournament. According to a friend of hers named Arthur John Van Cise, she went to his house to view a videotape of a birthday celebration that he had set up for her earlier in the month. At 4 a.m., the producer of KIMT, named Amy Kunz, realized Jodi wasn't at work. And Amy called Jodi twice, not remembering exactly which time she had called her, but does claim getting a hold of her. She told Jodi to wake up, and Jodi asked what time it was. After answering, Jodi said she'd be right in. The second time, the phone just rang and no answer from Jodi. When it came to be 7 a.m. and still no sign of Jodi, the staff had called the Mason City Police Department for a welfare check. Shortly after 7 a.m., the police showed up at Jodi's apartment, and her red 1991 Mazda Miata was in the parking lot unmoved from the night before. Officers found a pair of red women's pumps, a bottle of hairspray, a blow dryer, earrings, a bent car key, strewn around the car, reflecting a struggle had taken place at the vehicle. She had just purchased the vehicle a few weeks prior. The Mason City Police shared the photos of the crime scene with CBS station WCCO in 2005. 10 years after Jodi vanished, a Mason City police detective told WCCO CBS there were obvious drag marks near her vehicle. This meant there were signs of a struggle. Several neighbors told police they heard a scream around the time Jodi disappeared, but no one called for help and assumed it was the noisy campers at a nearby campsite near the apartment complex. Investigators towed Jodi's car for further analysis and searched her apartment complex and work desk for clues. Sometime in October 1994, 9 months before disappearing, Jodi reported being followed by a truck while jogging. Jodi contacted the Mason City Police Department regarding a man in a truck. In the police report, it talked about how she requested to talk to an officer about a subject who seemed to have been following her, driving a small, white, newer pickup. There has been an absence of any official record of the incident. So, most of what is known about the event is based on previous police statements to the media and interviews from those close to Jodi. Over the years, there were conflicting statements about whether the truck was black or white. There was an interview in 2004 with members of a nonprofit organization called Find Jodi. The members' names are Josh Benson and Gary Peterson, and they share what Jodi told them about the truck incident. She asked about the different ways she could protect herself in order to stay safe. A lieutenant at the Mason City Police Department named Vonde Weird had a description of the truck's color, that is consistent with the color of the pickup listed in the initial report that the Mason City Police Department made of Jodi's call. Sometime in October 1994, 9 months before disappearing, Jodi reported being followed by a truck while jogging. A year later, on the 1st of July, after she disappeared, the Mason City Police held a press conference announcing being on the lookout for a mid-1980s white Ford Econoline van, similar to the vehicle in this picture a witness reported seeing in Jodi's parking lot that morning. The Mason City Fire Department searched the Winnebago River behind her apartment complex, and still no sign of Jodi. 2 days after Jodi's disappearance, her friend John Bansice gave an interview to KIMT anchor Robin Wolfram. John was 50 years old, 20 years older than Jodi, and he said that he loved watching her have fun and checking up on her every once in a while. John also said that the police had interviewed him twice, but gave zero indication of him being a suspect. 48 Hours dispatched crews to Mason City in 1995 to cover Jodi's case. The producers met up with Jodi's family and her friend John. John provided contact information for some of Jodi's friends and acquaintances in Iowa. He was also interviewed by 48 Hours less than a week after Jodi's disappearance. Months later, the Mason City Police confirmed John had passed a polygraph test, but never said he was a person of interest. Jodi's friends did suspect that John might have had something to do with her abduction. However, John's friend, named LaDonna Woodford, confirmed that it wouldn't be possible because she called him that morning at 6 a.m. to go for a walk. When they talked that morning, she said he didn't seem anxious or out of sorts in any way. However, in March 2017, search warrants were issued for the GPS records of John's 1999 Honda Civic and 2013 GMC 1500. It was the most substantial break-in that the case had in decades. However, investigators found out that nothing of importance was recorded. The background of John and Jodi's relationship dates back 6 months before she disappeared. The two spent a lot of time together that those who knew Jodi believed that John became infatuated with her to the point where he became obsessed. It's unknown if John had any special feelings for Jodi, but her friends confirmed that she made it clear to John she wanted to remain friends. So, it's possible he may have expressed some romantic interest in her at some point. The suspicions surrounding John were very understandable. Jodi was described by her friends as very naive and trusting, and her sister Joanne Nape said she definitely was too trusting and too personable. That could have made her an easy target. John had purchased a $26,000 boat and named it after Jodi. And Amy Kunz said that on the morning of June 27th, John called the news station asking if she was at work. And he further pressed for more information asking if she was sick. Also, it just so happens that John owned a van similar to the one seen by the witness that was parked in front of Jodi's apartment. Now, taking into account of how John was voluntarily providing information and questions he asked, he could have genuinely been trying to help or attach himself to the case in a way to purposely direct investigators away from suspecting him. For it is not uncommon for those who are guilty to overly attach themselves to a case, so they know what's going on and how to cover their tracks if necessary. He was also going through a divorce and had many DUIs to the point where he had to install a breathalyzer device in his van. Jodi was warned about John by 3 of her friends, but being the trusting person she was, she never took them seriously and laughed it off. John's suspected obsession with Jodi became more apparent in a video he filmed at Jodi's birthday party, which is made public for the first time on Oxygen. The network aired a special about Jodi's case called Up and Vanished. The producers called retired FBI profiler Jim Clemente, who started an investigation of his own into the case and shared it with the Mason City Police Department. Along with two other framed profilers named John Douglas and James Fitzgerald, he watched the video and were noticing the difference in behavior John would have in front and behind the camera. Clemente said that when Jodi was giving attention to other men, John would stare with an evil look in his eye. Clemente put together a prosecutor report in which he built a case that could prove John actually had committed this crime, like many have suspected. Although Jodi was naive about John Van Cise having any dangerous tendencies, she wasn't completely oblivious to the possibility that someone was probably stalking her. After sharing with Amy Kunz that she felt as though she was being followed by a truck while jogging, it was only one time. Plus, there is another person of interest named Tony Jackson, and he wasn't originally linked to Jodi's case at first. But an anonymous source began to wonder about his true intentions after he became in contact with Jodi. He lived in Mason City at the time of Jodi's disappearance and attended North Iowa Community College and developed an interest in broadcasting. He somehow knew of a particular bar that Jodi would frequently visit. The source always wondered how he knew. The source witnessed two men walking into the establishment and spotted Jodi. Tony allegedly walks up to her and started to talk to her as if he knew her. The source, being too far away to hear the conversation, just assumed that he was just trying to get some career advice. But after Jodi disappeared, the source began to wonder if he was behind her disappearance. Tony is serving a life sentence at a prison in Rush County, Minnesota, for raping 3 women in 1997. So, he has a clear track record of being a danger to women. Also, the night Jodi disappeared, at the same time and place, another female witness spotted an African-American man who looked to be in his teens, riding a bike outside the complex. He then started biking right beside her as she ran, which she found odd. That same witness experienced almost getting hit by a speeding car that was leaving Jodi's apartment complex. The witness would always run past the complex at 4:30 a.m. Despite Tony's criminal history, these may not be considered strong connections to Jodi's disappearance. The black guy biking could have been anyone, and there's no clear evidence that could point to him being the driver of the vehicle, or if he even owned a vehicle whatsoever. It's also not known if it's even similar to the van Jodi could have been abducted into. Tony claims he's innocent, but he wrote a rap song about Jodi. When an investigative reporter spoke with one of Tony's former jailmates, he told her Tony admitted to have abducting and killing an anchor woman and penned a tune about the crime. Tony's former mate ended up quoting some of the lyrics. This could understandably raise suspicions, but on the episode of Up and Vanished, featuring Jodi's case, it stated that cadaver dogs hit on the scent of decomposition around the silo, but the dog's discovery didn't lead to new evidence. The police ruled Tony out as a suspect, saying in a statement that he is not a viable one. There is a possibility that Jodi could have been involved in a drug-related disappearance. A few months before Jodi was abducted, one of her friends named Billy Pruin was shot and killed at his rural farm in April 1995. The next day, a friend went to his farmhouse to check on him and found the door ajar, with Pruin's keys still lodged in the outside lock. He called for Pruin and left after receiving no answer. The next morning, Pruin's mother went to check on her son and saw his dead body in the living room. He was shot in the chest, and his death was ruled a suicide, but later switched to undetermined, because there was no reason for him to commit suicide. He was engaged days before he died and purchased a new tractor. There were no identifiable prints on Billy's gun that was found in his hands. Also, any gunshot residue that could have possibly been was never reported or missing. According to his fiancée, he was afraid of something weeks leading up to his death. Jodi's friends and relatives believe she could have possibly been investigating the circumstances surrounding his death. So, she may have come too close to finding any evidence to his death, and unfortunately became a victim herself by anyone involved with Billy's death. Billy was concerned over the growing methamphetamine problem in Mason City and wanted things to change. Some believe his death was linked to drug traffickers. As he was Jodi's friend, there is a possibility he wanted to bring the awareness to her knowledge for a story report. Jodi Huisentruit is still missing today. Thankfully, there's still hope. All the answers needed will come forth to solve this case, hopefully. A private investigator named Steve Ridge claims to have new information. He has been working independent of authorities and is confident that he'll find evidence that'll bring closure. He says that he was able to secure a confession from someone who managed to destroy important evidence of the case. Ridge said that the person was being heavily interrogated by the Mason City police and was in a very dangerous situation and destroyed the evidence that could have led to an arrest and conviction. The person agreed to allow Ridge to share the information with the proper federal authorities. The person remains anonymous, and the destroyed evidence remains unknown. But after all, Jodi is still missing, and there's a team called the Find Jodi Team, created in 2003 by a group of journalists and retired law enforcement. It's a nonprofit organization. The members keep an open line of communication and regularly contact her sister and other family members. They have cultivated their own sources related to the case and spent up to years applying their skills to the case. In mid-2018, the team launched a billboard campaign around Mason City to commemorate Jodi Huisentruit's 50th birthday, featuring a photo of her with a message saying, "Somebody knows something. Is it you?" 6 months later, the billboard was vandalized by a spray painting of words that said, "Machine Shed," and the name of a retired Mason City Police Department investigator who worked on Huisentruit's case. There's nothing that indicates that those who vandalized it had a motive for doing so, and the current police chief insisted it was just a prank. In 2001, Huisentruit's family declared Jodi legally dead, but her case is still open and active. Hi everyone. I hope you all liked and learned something from this video. People often overlook and take for granted the importance of journalists and activists and don't know how dangerous the jobs can be. That's why I encourage you to like and share this video and subscribe for more. Also, please consider donating to the organizations and charities in the links below. Thank you all so much. I'll see you on my next video. Bye!